Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, April 5th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Help could be on the way soon for San Diego's multi-billion-dollar event industry shut down by the pandemic. As KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman tells us, doing so does come with a hefty price. Some say is well worth it.
We've waited our turn, but now it's time for our industry to be opened up.
I do.
After news from state officials that private gatherings like weddings and other events can increase capacity with negative tests or vaccinated guests, now a push to have permitting fees waived for an industry that has been crippled by the pandemic.
The events industry brought 2.7 million visitors and $3.5 billion in spending to San Diego in 2019. 2020 obviously tells a very different story, but we're in a position now as we come out of COVID-19, as we come out of this pandemic, we have to intentionally support and help those industries that have been hardest hit.
Supervisor Nathan Fletcher is hoping to waive some fees for events using county services, something that event operators like Laura McFarland say can really help.
It's been incredibly hard. I have an 18-year-old son who's going into college, and we've used his college fund to survive. So we're not sure how we're going to continue paying for his college. I've saved 20 years. Having these fees waived, when you're looking at, do I do an event, do I not? If you can save anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000, that could be the difference of you deciding to go forward.
McFarland also leads the San Diego Event Coalition, a group that since last year has been fighting for a seat at the table to negotiate safe reopening guidelines for large events.
Our numbers are doing much better. We want a path back, which every other industry has been given a path back on the tier system.
Fletcher's proposal will be taken up by the entire board and, if approved, could save the event industry a collective $2 million.
It's just decimated our industry. It's really unfortunate, but we're ready to come back.
Aaron Bianchi with Bright Event Rentals and the California Association for Private Events says the permitting proposal is good news and says the state allowing larger group gatherings is huge for the local wedding industry.
Before it was 3 households, no eating, no drinking for a reception. And that, that's not the wedding that many people have dreamed of.
Bianchi says many couples moved their weddings to Arizona during the pandemic as that state was more open. She says her and others have been negotiating event reopening guidelines with state officials for months.
It's got to be economically viable for our wedding planners, our vendors, everyone, in order to come back. It's got to make sense for them.
The new guidelines hit April 15th. In the state's red reopening tier, private events can have up to 200 guests if they've been vaccinated or recently tested negative. Capacity then will continue to increase as our local situation improves. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
$83 million is up for grabs thanks to a special rent relief program by the city of San Diego to help low-income families. KPBS reporter Melissa May says officials are urging people to apply to help their children in school.
Applications for the COVID-19 Housing Stability Assistance Program have been open since March 15th. Today, Mayor Todd Gloria and other local leaders urged at-risk and low-income families to apply for the federal relief money.
We have an $83 million fund available to help folks actually pay down that back rent, pay down those past utility bills, and get back on with things, particularly as our economy reopens.
Councilmember Sean Elo Rivera calls the program the most significant assistance program in the city's history. He recalled his own childhood experience with housing instability.
That really disrupted my education, my siblings' education. I know it created incredible stress. an impact on my parents as they were going through their own health and economic turmoil at the time, which had led us into that situation.
Today's event was held at Clark Middle School in City Heights. The San Diego Unified School District is partnering with the San Diego Housing Commission to help distribute thousands of flyers about the housing program at 80 schools that serve as meal distribution sites. Richard Barrera is president of the San Diego Unified School Board.
As we know, over the last year, a student's home has also become the student's classroom. And so when students have to experience instability, when their parents are worrying about being able to pay the rent, believe me, it impacts that student's ability to concentrate on education.
Applications are being taken at covidassistance.sdhc.org. Or if you don't have internet access, call 619-535-6921. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And priority will be given to households with 50% or less of the city's median income, or with at least one household member who has been unemployed for 90 days. Immigration status does not affect whether a household qualifies for help. The San Diego Convention Center is nearing capacity as hundreds of migrant children arrived in San Diego over the weekend. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us the convention center is now home to young boys as well, after it previously only sheltered teenage girls.
The convention center is now home to 1,353 children, nearing its capacity of 1,400, as children continue to arrive at the southwest border, mostly in Texas. Of those, 198 have tested positive for coronavirus after stays in Border Patrol stations. Those that test positive are being held in separate areas of the convention center. This weekend, the temporary shelter also accepted 49 boys, all under the age of 13. Lindsay Tozlowski is the director of Immigrant Defenders, a nonprofit that provides legal support to unaccompanied minors. Last week, she toured the convention center to look at the conditions the children are being held in. While she said the temporary shelter was a big improvement on the cramped and dangerous Border Patrol stations, she stressed that this isn't a place children should be spending as long as an estimated 35 days.
This is not ideal. I don't think anyone thinks these are ideal placements for children. The best place for them to be is in our communities with their sponsors, where they can be, comfortable, cared for, and kept safe.
She said that reunifications with family members or sponsors should begin immediately, and the government should be taking more steps to speed that up and reassure family members that stepping forward won't put them at risk of deportation.
So there needs to be a disentanglement of ICE's enforcement priorities and the ORR system, and I think that the Biden administration is moving in that direction. It's important that families know that they will not be targeted if they come forward to care for a child.
According to the Department of Health and Human Services, there have so far been no reunifications of any children in the convention center with their families or sponsors in the U.S. HHS has said it will not expand the convention center's capacity, even as more children filter into its custody every day. As of Sunday, there were over 14,000 unaccompanied children in its care. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
San Diego County hit a milestone. Over 1 million people have received a coronavirus vaccine. County health officials say about 38% of residents have received at least one shot, and more than 22% are fully vaccinated. That is good news, as some parts of the U.S. are seeing increases of COVID-19 cases. As Mary Maloney reports, experts are warning about a virus variant that appears to be infecting school-aged children and younger adults.
The highly contagious B.1.1.7 variant fueling an alarming rise in COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations in Europe. And experts fear the U.S. could be next if we don't double down on safety measures.
What we know from the past year of the pandemic is that we tend to trend about 3 to 4 weeks behind Europe.
In Minnesota, more than 740 schools have had cases of the variant first identified in the UK. In Michigan, more and more young people are being hospitalized as cases rise. And in Florida last month, Orange County officials reporting a rise in COVID-19 cases in the 18 to 25 age group.
What we're seeing is pockets of infection around the country, particularly in younger people who haven't been vaccinated and also in school-age children.
While that age group is relatively well protected, experts say younger groups are still vulnerable as the B.1.1.7 variant circulates. Experts say the variant is more contagious and may cause more severe illness. And research suggests it may also be more deadly.
It's acting differently from anything we've seen before in terms of transmissibility, in terms of affecting young people. So we have to take this very seriously.
The good news, experts say current vaccines seem to be working well against this variant. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mary Maloney.
Adults aged 50 and over became eligible for the vaccine last week. If you're looking for an appointment, you might be able to find one at the Balboa Municipal Gym. The city of San Diego said first dose appointments are available for Moderna on Tuesday or Pfizer on Wednesday and Thursday. And the Del Mar Vaccination Superstation is still struggling with some supply issues. It will close on Wednesday as well as Friday through Sunday. And a reminder, we have more information about how and where to get your shot at kpbs.org. Just go to our homepage and then click on the Vaccines tab. The Minneapolis police chief took the stand in the trial of the police officer he fired, Derek Chauvin. As Camila Bernal reports, the focus is shifting from what happened on the day George Floyd died to the legal ramifications.
Derek Chauvin's former boss, Minneapolis Police Chief Medaria Arredondo, testifying on the training and the code of ethics officers abide by.
The goal is to resolve the situation as safely as possible. So you want to always have de-escalation.
An emergency room doctor says he treated Floyd for about 30 minutes, attempting to restart his heart.
Was your leading theory then for the cause of Mr. Floyd's cardiac arrest oxygen deficiency?
That was one of the more likely possibilities. I felt it at the time.
The defense arguing drugs could impact breathing.
Drug use. Certain drugs can cause hypoxia. Agreed? Yes. Specifically fentanyl?
That's correct.
How about methamphetamine?
It can.
Combination of the two?
Yes.
At some point during the more than 9 minutes that Chauvin's knee was on Floyd's neck, videos show Floyd was unresponsive before the paramedics arrived. But officers did not provide basic efforts to save Floyd's life.
Any amount of time that a patient spends in cardiac arrest without immediate CPR markedly decreases the chance of a good outcome.
Camila Bernal, KPBS News.
After stepping in to help with community COVID-19 response as an alternative care site, Palomar Health will receive more than $3 million in FEMA reimbursements. The medical group turned to Congressman Darrell Issa to help secure the funds. Early in the pandemic, Palomar Medical Center in Escondido was asked by the county and state officials to coordinate a COVID response. 2 floors of the facility were used to provide relief for local hospitals who were facing overcrowding. On a clear day, the Encina power plant smokestack could be seen for miles along the coast. But this month, a part of Carlsbad's history and identity is being torn down. KPBS's Alexander Nguyen has more.
To some, it was an eyesore. To others, it was part of home.
And it just reminds us of Carlsbad.
Surfers use it to orient themselves in the water, and pilots use it to navigate. After nearly 50 years, the Encina power plant smokestack is coming down.
Anytime you lose part of your history, it's kind of like you're losing part of community. And the smokestack, has been a center point or a focal of our community.
The power plant played a part in the city's incorporation. In fact, the plant and the smokestack was the cover photo of Susan Gutierrez's book, Window on the Past. She's a historian and the president of Carlsbad Historical Society. The book was published in 2002 to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Carlsbad.
To me, there was no story without talking about the power plant
construction.
The smokestack, as residents know it now, was built in the 1970s to replace 4 smaller stacks. At 400 feet tall, it was the tallest structures on the West Coast at the time. It had to be tall because the power plant was a fossil fuel plant, and the height helps to lessen the impact of soot and other pollutants on the area. The height also has an added bonus. It acts as an identifier for pilots flying to the nearby McClellan-Palomar Airport. Jeff White, a flight instructor and president of the Pacific Coast Flyers Flying Club, says it was a famous landmark for new pilots because it could be seen day or night.
On a clear day, you can see the smokestack all the way from Long Beach when you're in the air.
Very directional, very, way to get to Palomar Airport.
That was Carol, Jeff's wife, who, as a student pilot in the 1980s, used the smokestack to find her way home after her first cross-country flight.
It's a landmark that just, and it just reminds us of Carlsbad, too. It just always kind of has a place in our heart.
As much as it was part of Carlsbad's history, the smokestack had to come down. The plant was decommissioned in 2018, and under an agreement with the city, NRG, the plant's owner had to tear it down within 3 years. Still, residents like the Whites are sad to see it go.
I think powers that be kind of missed an opportunity. That's such an iconic landmark here. That could have been repurposed into a building that could have been a visitor, a visitor's kind of mall with shops and all those kinds of things.
A lot of the guys and girls, who grew up surfing in Carlsbad, they'd look and they could tell, oh, we're in this position or we're in that position, in the water.
The smokestack is being torn down at a rate of roughly 10 feet a day, and total demolition is expected to be completed by July. As for the future of the site, no specific plans are in the works at the moment. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
And just today, NRG told us the company paused demolition after discovering peregrine falcon eggs on the site on Easter Sunday. The eggs were found in a nest about 100 feet from the smokestack. The company is waiting for permission from the state before continuing. Over the last year, the San Diego housing market has increased to one of the highest rates in the nation. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer spoke with a local real estate broker about what's causing the growth and what it means for potential buyers and sellers.
Sandy beaches, warm weather, and world-class attractions. San Diego County is a picturesque place to buy a home. That's part of the reason why San Diego home prices rose the 3rd fastest in the nation for major cities this year, according to S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller indices. Other factors for increasing home values are limited supply and record low interest rates, according to San Diego real estate broker Voltaire Lepe.
There isn't enough properties out there. There's 2,300 homes for sale. Same time last year, there's 4,800 homes for sale. There's 5% increase in buyers. So when you have this many homes, but this many buyers, that's naturally what's going to happen. And the reason why there's so many buyers right now is because interest rates have been extremely low.
In San Diego County, median home prices hit a new mark, $672,750, according to CoreLogic data.
And look, as soon as the house is on the market, the first weekend they have the open house, and then it's gone the next week.
While some San Diegans are moving elsewhere, recent homebuyer Galen Emery wanted to stay in a city he loves and recognizes he's fortunate. But the process was still challenging.
And it used to be back in the day that you would kind of go back multiple rounds, but now they're basically okay, we'll take the top bids that we like. We'll then take from those, basically ask every buyer, say, give me your best and final number, right? There's no here's where you land, here's where the other people are. You're just kind of stabbing in the dark at the number you think is the right actual number for the house that you want, or at least the number that you're willing to pay for it.
But Lepe says, unlike the frenzied time period before the Great Recession, now is a great time to invest for first-time and experienced buyers alike.
So if you're a home buyer in this market, I would say, take advantage of the low interest rates. As long as you could afford the property, it beats renting all day long. If you're a home seller, if you're even thinking of selling your home, now's the time to do it.
Lepe says he expects a small correction for the high prices in the region, but added that the only people who should potentially wait to buy a home in San Diego are cash buyers. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Our partners at iNewsSource are reporting that state lawmakers will vote Thursday on a Senate bill that would help California farmers and ranchers who can't get insurance because they're in high fire risk areas. The legislation was inspired by an Alpine chicken rancher who iNewsSource recently profiled after he was rejected for fire coverage. Under the bill, farmers would be eligible for a last resort insurance plan set up by the state. For more on this bill, you can go to inewssource.org. A special election will take place tomorrow in the 79th Assembly District. The seat was vacated after Dr. Shirley Weber was confirmed as California's new Secretary of State. The district runs from Otay Ranch all the way to La Mesa. 5 candidates are on the ballot and early voting is underway. Tomorrow's vote comes at a pivotal time for the heavily Democratic district when federal COVID recovery money will now flow through the state to communities that desperately need it. Complete coverage on the election right here tomorrow on KPBS Evening Edition.
Dry weather and pleasant conditions expected throughout the entire week here. And with the onshore flow, we'll see night and morning clouds. Temperatures will creep up a little bit on Wednesday, but temperatures won't rise too much. And our dry pattern that continues right through the week. Forecast lows for tonight. 52 in Oceanside, San Diego 57. We'll see more in the way of low clouds. Ramona's down to 45, and El Cajon 51. Borrego Springs 62, and Mount Laguna at 53. Here's a look at our weather on Tuesday. Now, there's a ridge of high pressure building over the area, so we'll be looking at dry conditions, and it's quite warm in the interior. Temperatures climbing to 68 in Oceanside and in San Diego. Morning clouds giving way to some sun. Ramona 76 and El Cajon 79. That's pretty nice. Borrego Springs 91 and Campo at 73. That ridge of high pressure is with us on Wednesday. This should be a warm day with the dry conditions, and that warmth will continue to build in the interior sections. So here's a look at our extended forecast. Night and morning clouds next few days. Wednesday just a little bit warmer, but for the most part it should be pleasant, upper 60s. Inland sections warming to the low 80s. Morning clouds next few days. And then over the weekend it looks pretty nice. And as we check the mountains, looking good here. Clouds and sunshine, a little breezy on Thursday. And temperatures climbing to low 60s over the weekend. And in the deserts, it's going to be partly sunny to hot here the next couple of days. Highs climbing into the mid-90s, and it stays quite warm right into the weekend. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Parents are suing another local school district for failing to provide in-person learning. The lawsuit was filed against the La Mesa Spring Valley School District, citing a state bill requiring in-person instruction be offered. It also claims the district failed to provide students with equal access to distance learning. The superintendent said the district has not yet been served with the complaint and cannot comment. A similar lawsuit was filed last month against the San Diego Unified School District. San Diego Unified teachers are getting back into their classrooms this week as they prepare to welcome back students. All grade levels will return for a hybrid schedule on April 12th. Families still have the option to continue with distance learning full-time. Coronavirus spreads through aerosols, droplets that go into the air when a person talks, sneezes, coughs, or breathes. But a recent study shows how it may also spread through infected surfaces in schools and in daycares. Mandy Gaither has more.
When it comes to coronavirus, knowing how it spreads can help stop the spread. That's why researchers at Emory University teamed up with the CDC to study how the virus may move around places like schools and daycares. They found surfaces are an important source of risk.
Particularly hard, like non-porous objects like countertops or plastic toys, for example.
Ben Loatman is senior author of the study. The professor at Emory's Rollins School of Public Health says frequent cleaning is important.
Where people spend a lot more time, like in a school, like in a daycare or in an office setting, where people, if someone's infectious, they can keep contaminating a surface, more frequent cleaning is required.
But in schools, he says even hourly cleaning may not provide enough protection. He says the best way to reduce risk is to avoid contaminating those surfaces in the first place.
So things like mask wearing is a great way to avoid contamination.
With no vaccine currently authorized for children, Lopeman says it's more important than ever to contain the coronavirus's spread in schools and daycares. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Baseball and business proving to go hand in hand down by the ballpark. The Padres open another series tonight at Petco Park when they host the Giants at 7:10. Area shops and restaurants seeing a boost in business, even with the smaller crowds allowed to attend. The Padres had a good opening weekend, taking 3 of 4 games from the Diamondbacks. Among the highlights, an impressive homecoming win by El Cajon native and pitcher Joe Musgrove. He's been dubbed the oldest living general, and hundreds showed up to help him celebrate turning 107 years old. Retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Harry Goldsworthy arrived to his birthday celebration in Riverside on a motorbike. He received a military honor guard tribute and certificate of appreciation for his service to our country. He's believed to be the nation's oldest living general, and he's still as witty and sharp as they come.
I get asked all the time, what did you do to live so long? And I tell them that I think it's just God's will, and sometimes I wonder whether he's rewarding me or punishing me.
And he clearly has quite a sense of humor. Goldsworthy says his secret to a long life is to drink a shot of vodka every night before bed. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.